We are witnessing a moment that demands rigorous analysis, because what is unfolding in this conflict does not represent a simple tactical escalation, but a fundamental reconfiguration of the assumptions upon which Western defensive architecture has been built for decades. Iran has executed a seventh missile wave directed at Tel Aviv. Images arriving from multiple observation points across the metropolitan area document nocturnal detonations, fires spreading across critical infrastructure, and a civilian population enduring its seventh bombardment in a compressed time frame. This is not a continuation of what came before. It is something qualitatively distinct. What makes this seventh wave a strategically disruptive event is not its mere occurrence, but what it reveals about two systems that represented the backbone of Western defensive doctrine. Patriot batteries have failed, and the Iron Dome has failed. Simultaneously. For the seventh consecutive time. Against a nation that Western analyses described as operationally weakened. To grasp the weight of that failure, it is necessary to reconstruct the sequence of reasoning that preceded each wave. Following the first impact on Tel Aviv, American and Israeli commands activated immediate tactical adjustments. Battery repositioning, radar recalibration according to the observed flight profiles of Iran's Fatah hypersonic missiles, and forward deployment of interceptor reserves. The operational hypothesis was clear. The system had learned, the defensive architecture had adapted, and penetration rates would decline. Subsequent waves refuted that hypothesis repeatedly. The same emergency protocol was reactivated each time, with identical logic and formal expressions of renewed confidence through official channels. The seventh wave has demonstrated that confidence was without foundation. The question now circulating through every command center, from Tel Aviv to the Pentagon, is this. At what point does recalibration cease to be a valid response? When does the cycle of attack, failure, and adjustment stop being a correctable technical problem and become the expression of a structural gap between the nature of the threat and the actual capability of the deployed systems? The PAC-3 interceptor, the most advanced Patriot variant currently in service, was conceived specifically to neutralize ballistic threats. Its operational record against Houthi missiles over Saudi Arabia was repeatedly invoked by American defense officials as proof of concept. That record was real within the threat parameters for which it was designed. The hypersonic Fatah is not that threat, and the seventh wave has made that capability gap visible to every military planner, every procurement official, and every allied government that has built its national security around American defensive technology. The implications extend far beyond the immediate theater of operations. The United States has exported Patriot technology to more than 18 allied nations. This system constitutes the backbone of NATO air defense doctrine in Eastern Europe and anchors missile defense strategies from the Gulf to the Pacific. Every government that has acquired Patriot batteries, every military that has integrated them into its national defensive architecture, is watching the skies over Tel Aviv tonight and performing the same calculation. That calculation does not yield encouraging results. The same can be said for Warsaw, Seoul, or Taipei. When they ask themselves the inevitable question, will this system protect us? The failure of the Iron Dome in this seventh wave articulates a different but equally significant narrative. The Iron Dome was never designed to intercept ballistic missiles. Its operational scope encompasses short-range rockets, artillery projectiles, and the threat profile that Hamas and Hezbollah have presented for 2 decades. Its interception rates against that category of threat have been genuinely extraordinary, and that is not in dispute. What is in dispute, and to which the seventh wave has responded with brutal clarity, is whether the exceptional success of that system against one specific type of threat generated a systemic overconfidence that left Israel exposed against qualitatively different threats. The billions invested in a system optimized for slow, predictable projectiles may have created a false sense of comprehensive security that masked the absence of viable defenses against fast-maneuvering hypersonic platforms. The answer burning on the Tel Aviv horizon tonight is affirmative. On what this seventh wave reveals about Iranian strategic depth, precision is required. One wave can be a dramatic demonstration. 2 waves can represent the exhaustion of prepared reserves. 7 waves communicate something radically different, Iran's Fatah missile inventory was not a limited arsenal destined to be consumed in the opening hours of the conflict. 7 waves indicate that Iranian military planners built that capacity with sufficient depth to sustain prolonged operations, not to execute a single symbolic strike. That sustainability changes everything. If Israel and the United States cannot establish with certainty that there will be no 8th, 9th, or 10th wave, which after 7 successive attacks no longer has any operational basis, then every decision regarding escalation must be made against the open reality that Iran retains active capacity to strike Israeli population centers. The domestic political pressure that the 7th wave generates within Israel is reaching critical mass. Israeli public opinion received the earlier waves with shock and then determination. The 7th raises a structurally distinct question that political authority is compelled to answer. What is the plan to stop this? Not the plan for the next retaliatory operation, not the plan for the continuation of operations inside Iran, but the concrete plan to protect the Israeli civilian population from continuous missile bombardment launched by an adversary that has now demonstrated its capacity to penetrate the most advanced available air defense systems repeatedly within a compressed time frame. That question currently has no satisfactory answer, and that absence of an answer is politically catastrophic in a democracy under fire. For the American administration, the timing of this 7th wave is particularly unfavorable. The visible and undeniable failure of American-provided defensive technology to protect a major allied city is being evaluated in real time by every nation that has built its security around American systems and guarantees. This erosion of credibility will manifest in congressional hearings, in opposition political messaging, and in foreign capitals that are reconsidering their defensive procurement strategies. None of those manifestations are favorable for the administration in an electoral cycle. Beneath the political analysis lies a harsher military reality that requires direct articulation. The United States and Israel entered this conflict with a specific theory of victory: degrade Iranian military infrastructure to below the threshold of effective retaliation, reaching strategic objectives before the political cost of a prolonged conflict exceeded the will to sustain operations. The 7 waves of Fatah missiles over Tel Aviv demonstrate that the degradation of Iranian retaliatory capacity has not occurred at the speed or depth that theory required. Either the strikes against Iranian missile facilities were less effective than intelligence assessments indicated, or the Fatah inventory was more extensive and geographically dispersed than Western intelligence understood, or both simultaneously. Any of those conclusions demands not a tactical adjustment, but a fundamental strategic reassessment, a complete revision of the operational framework. Because if Iran retains the capacity to strike Tel Aviv indefinitely, the theory of victory that originated this conflict is no longer operationally viable. The question that American and Israeli commanders are working through at this moment is what replaces it. 3 broad trajectories forward exist. The first is dramatic escalation, a massive intensification of strikes against Iranian territory, with the objective of locating and destroying remaining Fatah launch platforms and their production infrastructure. This trajectory maximizes the probability of Iranian counter-escalation and the risk of conflict extension toward the Strait of Hormuz, Iraq, Syria, and potentially Lebanon. The second is negotiated de-escalation, utilization of back-channel diplomatic communications whose activity across multiple sources has been confirmed to achieve a temporary cessation of hostilities while a more permanent framework is explored. This trajectory requires both Iran and Israel to step back from positions to which they have publicly committed, which is politically unsustainable for both governments in their current domestic contexts. The third is strategic recalibration, an acknowledgement that will likely not be made public, but is operationally necessary, consisting of adjusting the original objectives of the operation to reflect the actual costs and timelines that achieving them requires. This trajectory involves accepting a reality considerably more complex and costly than what was anticipated when the operation was approved. None of these trajectories is clean. None produces the definitive outcome for which the operation was designed. All require acknowledging that the strategic landscape has changed in a fundamental way. The seventh wave of Iranian missiles over Tel Aviv is not simply a military event. It is a declaration about the limits of air superiority and precision strikes when applied against a retaliatory capacity that is dispersed, hardened, and apparently far deeper than estimated. That declaration has been written tonight in fire across the Tel Aviv horizon, and every government, every military, and every intelligence service watching it is reading it.